So my first question is, so what are the factors to consider when finding a venue to publish? So with this question, I have another concern. In our field, computer science field, we consider a conference paper is a complete paper. So we do a decent job to write a conference paper. But when it comes to certain other fields like natural sciences, there's a conflict. They do not consider conference paper as a paper. So in maybe some like marking schemes, the promotion schemes, conference papers are a little bit less considered things when compared to the journal papers. So how to find venues to publish, and also how to handle this thing balance, and what are the situations and what are the things happening in foreign universities in other places regarding this difference. So I invite Professor Gehan first to talk about this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a hot topic in as much as, you know, where do you publish, what do you publish. When it comes to the conference versus journal publication thing, in my experience, I know that there are some IEEE conferences which are, you know, very prestigious, like the IEDM, and also I have been chair of another IEEE conference on power devices. So there are some, you know, and of course, cybernetics conference and so on. So there are some IEEE conferences which are very competitive to, you know, get an abstract accepted, you know, more than many journals. And so I think in the field, the researchers know these conferences. You know, the rejection rate of abstracts submitted is very high. So if you get a paper accepted and then published in the proceedings of these conferences, it's highly regarded. But generally speaking, all right, you know, a lot of conferences have in the physical sciences become a forum. You know, you announce your results early or first, try to get reaction, you know, the discussion, you know, feedback before you submit for publication. So that's another way of looking at it. And so those conferences don't sometimes have full papers or have abstracts only type conferences. You know, then of course in your particular area, the journals, I think you will know the you know, what your peers regard as good journals. Now it doesn't go by impact factor alone, because impact factor across different disciplines varies hugely. You know, like in Prasanga's area, and also which I worked on in nanomaterials and so on, you can have, you know, a large, you know, journals with huge impact factors, because there are many researchers who are researching in those areas, and it's experimental research as well. But it's still very competitive to get into the, you know, very good journals. But I think something you should think about is, which is happening right now, is the preprint servers. So, you know, when you have a paper prior to being actually submitted to the journal, or concurrently to being published or submitted to a journal, you can put it on a preprint server, ARXV, which is hosted at Cornell. I mean, I just read it's got 2 million papers on that now. And a lot of mathematicians and physicists just publish on RxIV. You know, they don't even bother to go to journals anymore. You know, they publish, put it on RxV. You get open community peer review, because other people will read the paper straight away. They will respond, and you know, the research goes on, and then they go to the next experiment, and so on. So I think the whole publication thing, open publication, is not just open source with you know, people trying to make money by, you know, getting you to pay to publish in their journals, which are, you know, not even indexed and so on. But then the preprint servers, you know, there's BioXRIV and ARXIV, are becoming increasingly places where the, you know, the latest research can be found and published and known. It doesn't stop you from necessarily submitting the work later on, even after you know, you've got feedback from the community. polishing the results up and submitting it to a journal is okay. It's accepted that that's possible now. So that's what I would say to think about. If you can get a lot of citations out of publishing in ARXIV, that's good.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And I invite Professor Saman Halgamuge to talk about this.
Yeah, I think there are different traditions. I fully agree. And so computer science has a tradition of publishing in top quality conferences. And so, for example, there is a website you can go and have a look at it, CORE, C-O-R-E, and they categorize these different index conferences. And this amazing new tradition Gehan mentioned, and to publish in archive. You don't care which journal, which conference, it's out there. And so now there is something in it, because if you're not Google, if you're not a well-known person, people won't read your paper in archive. So that is interesting. So, but if you can afford to do that if you already create a name and then you get cited, right? And I work with a person who actually invented this method called UMAP. I think his paper had 2,000 citations, and he didn't publish in any particular journal until it became really well known. So so that tradition is more in the computer science and AI. So I think ACM, IEEE conferences, index conferences, and again ACM and IEEE also have different levels of quality and acceptance rate and so on. And then there are completely different conferences in my area. For example, ICML in AI conferences that are not directly connected with ACM or IEEE, but they have a reputation on their own, and the acceptance is very, very low, and it's also based on open peer review. So that means we did some publications like that. We submit the paper, no authors. I think they're blind authors first. I can't remember, but anyone can comment on it, and it's a review is there, and then based on review we modify. So everything is transparent. Everyone sees your first paper, everyone sees the criticism, everyone sees the corrected paper, and then once the paper is accepted, and it goes to archive. So there are also some models. So my personal philosophy is I publish a paper in a place where it will have the most impact. So it's read by most people, and it is cited by most people. So I take a note of these different levels of journals, Q1, Q2, Q3. I take an example. If I have a nice paper about coconut industry in Sri Lanka, something relevant, very relevant to Sri Lanka, my first place to go would be National Science Foundation Journal, which is indexed. It may not be Q1, but it is still, it has the Sri Lanka in it, Sri Lankan National Science Foundation. It will be read by people who are interested in the coconut industry in Sri Lanka, for example, right? So, but if I have a paper that is relevant to AI community, and I go for them. So I think we take care of the impact factor and all the other things, but the fundamental principle is to place a paper where it gets the most attention. That is my personal principle on it.
Thank you, sir. So actually, we can see that there's a difference. Like when we consider the impact factor alone, that might, in certain fields, it is really high. In certain fields, because I personally feel that I do most research in cryptography that is going towards it mathematics. So impact factor going beyond 2 is nearly impossible. So my personal feeling is when to judge a journal, its level, I would consider maybe Scopus to get the percentile of that particular journal, or maybe SJR rankings to check whether the journal is coming with Q1 to that sort of thing. And I'm really agreeing with Professor Saman's opinion. We have to place a paper to get the most impact out of it. Yeah. So that's about publications. And what about the open access policies? Do you really consider about open access policy and when you are publishing?
Okay, maybe I can answer that from my perspective quickly. And of course, open access means that once you publish the paper and people in the entire world who have access to internet can get it, can read it, and so which is beautiful. And perhaps the downside is that the open access journal may ask me to pay $1,000, right, and a fee to bear the cost of open access publication. Not everyone, but some people may. But some open access journal, good ones, have huge discounts to authors from developing countries. So I have to say that. So it shouldn't hinder you from publishing a paper. And I also understand that there are some internal grants schemes to support this sort of high quality publications in top open access journals. So, but if you go to an IEEE kind of journal or ACM journal, and most of them are not open access, but indexed and fairly reputable, and you don't have to pay a lot to publish it if you stay within the page limit. But then again, and you have to pay to get access to those journals. But the trick now is nobody really cares if you actually legally you can be challenged, but most of us put our published papers in archive. So now if someone has an IEEE paper, and so you don't, sometimes you don't have to go to IEEE because you just search for archive, and most likely you will get a somewhat different version, very much equal to the published version in archive. So it is considered as some form of democratization of this publication space, which I would really welcome.
Thank you, sir.